$10 million. That's the bond amount for the man accused of carrying out a hate crime attack on peaceful marchers in Boulder, Colorado. He remains behind bars this morning. Our Naomi Ruchim joins us here in Studio 57 with more on this case. Good morning, Naomi.
Errol, good morning. Mohamed Soliman had been planning this attack for quite some time, but it wasn't until he carried it out this weekend he had been driving for Uber. He'd passed recent background checks, too, despite living in the U.S. illegally after overstaying his visa. But he was also spending his time researching how to make Molotov cocktails on YouTube. A memorial of flowers and flags is growing at the scene of Sunday's horrific fire attack in Boulder.
I feel like it's important to make it beautiful with flowers and show that life will continue even though violence has happened here.
Police say at least a dozen people were injured, some with severe burns, when the suspect, identified as 45-year-old Egyptian national Mohamed Sabry, threw Molotov cocktails at demonstrators marching peacefully in support of the October 7th Israeli hostages. Witnesses say he yelled "Free Palestine" during the attack.
Do you understand it?
Yes. Yesterday evening, the suspect made his first appearance in court. He is facing multiple felony charges and a federal hate crimes charge.
When he was interviewed about the attack, he said he wanted them all to die. He had no regrets, and he would go back and do it again.
According to court documents, the suspect told investigators that he had been planning the attack for a year and that he used Molotov cocktails because he was denied the purchase of a gun because he was not a legal citizen.
The Jewish community is beyond upset.
Councilwoman Tara Weiner knows 4 of the victims, including an 88-year-old Holocaust refugee.
I talked to some of them who could answer the phone. They'll be okay physically.
As the city now works to unite after an attack that shook the Jewish community. Police say 16 unused Molotov cocktails were found near the scene after the attack. Soliman is due back in court on Thursday. He has not yet entered a plea. According to court documents, Soliman has been living in Colorado Springs with his wife and 5 children. And though he'd been planning the attack for a year, he was waiting until after his daughter graduated to carry it out. Mohamed Soliman now faces life in prison. Errol?
Oh, stunning developments there, Naomi. Thank you. CBS News Justice Department reporter Jake Rosen can explain some of the charges in this case. Good morning, Jake. So there's a lot of new information we just learned there, but the suspect's immigration status, how might that impact the charges?
Well, Errol, we've seen in some of these high-profile cases that the Trump administration has decided to, instead of actually charging and going through the prosecution process for people who it alleges of dangerous criminal acts, they've attempted to deport them. Although, obviously, however, in this case, it looks like, at least in Colorado specifically, and because of that federal hate crime tacked on top of it, he'll likely still be charged and prosecuted here in the United States. Although the Trump administration and people in the White House, like Stephen Miller, Caroline Leavitt, and President Trump, have all made clear that they take issue with the fact that this man had allegedly overstayed his visa, and that at least that's not an uncommon process, right? There are about 1% to 2% of people who are on the type of visa that this man was on do overstay, but obviously it proves their point that there were dangerous criminals all across the country who are not technically supposed to be here.
There was allegedly some real premeditation ahead of this, many unused Molotov cocktails allegedly, and you have the suspect's apparent lack of remorse. How might a judge interpret all that?
Well, certainly more to come, and we haven't even seen the official charges filed in Colorado because they added 4 additional victims during that press conference and as investigation kind of wrapped up at the specific scene of the crime. Although if you do the math, Errol, it's been about 8 charges per victim, including assault, premeditated first-degree murder, and a couple of others. So we're likely to see, in addition to those 42 charges, upwards of 2 or 3 dozen more. Certainly that would put him in the 70-plus charge category. And then in addition to that, the federal investigation is still ongoing, Errol, so we'll see what happens in that court appearance on Thursday, and certainly more to come as the Department of Justice has said they're going to prosecute this fully. That might mean adding terrorist charges or potentially more violent charges at the federal level.
Yeah, so much more to see in this case. Jake Rosen with the latest. Thanks, Jake.